Welcome to Intuitive Astrology with Molly McCord. Thank you so much for joining me today as we're going to discuss the major astrology of April 2025. We move into this fourth month of the year after a very big March where we had a lot of astrology unfolding, including eclipse season, retrogrades, and Neptune entering Aries. You might feel like you need a month in between each month just to recover from the previous month. But April is not going to give us much of a break as we are being required to actively integrate these energies and truly trust more of ourselves that are opening up, blossoming, and revealing more of who we are in this lifetime. Now, Neptune in Aries is going to continue to be a very significant influence in April. Neptune is beginning a brand new 165-year cycle, and on a daily level, that can be hard for us to fathom or even put into an appropriate context. But Neptune is at a 0-degree point activation, which is bringing our spiritual wisdom, your ascension journey, your spiritual principles, and your intuition into the Aries areas of your chart, also into the root chakra, asking you to now lead your life with a deeper connection to your spiritual self and your God self. Neptune is ushering in new ways for us to trust who we are, to move towards what is lighting us up, where we feel those creative inspirations, and to know that the beginning points are here, even when we can't fully see them yet. And that's because Neptune works through the invisible and the unseen. Neptune is what you're feeling and sensing that can make it difficult to describe, yet you sense and feel how real it is to you, especially at a personal level. Neptune is coming in to diffuse those typical Aries energies, which is quite interesting that this is happening during Aries season. Keep in mind that Neptune could enter Aries at any point in the calendar year. Neptune could have transitioned into Aries during any other astrological sign, but it occurred during Aries season, where we are meant to be connected to who we are now, to understand what's in alignment for you, how you identify your energy and your needs at this time. The Aries brings us back into self and into that root chakra, which is meant to be diffused through the Neptunian influence so that we're no longer feeling like we have to activate any of those lower Aries expressions. And that's part of what this 0-degree activation field is going to reveal for us, because Neptune slows down any of that Aries impulsiveness or competitiveness. It's going to help regulate where your energy goes so that you have a beat to check in and really determine, do I want this? Do I really want to put my energy into this or that or the other thing? Is this really what serves me at this time? And if so, then it's a yes. And if not, if you have doubt means don't. Doubt means don't. So then you feel that it's okay to lean back and trust that you're not meant to go in that direction. That's going to be a big part of April, is checking in on where your energy naturally goes and whether that lifts you up or whether it sinks you down. And that's going to be one of the clearer ways you're going to feel if this is in alignment for you. Now, we're also going to have new energy tools coming in, new energy tools that allow us to navigate the terrains that we're moving through. So as I'm speaking now, I'm looking down a timeline and I can sometimes see 4 or 5 steps down the timeline. I'm saying steps because I'm not sure how else to describe them. But when I see down a timeline, I can see how something plays out. And then it gives me an insight into, okay, don't worry about that. Don't put energy there. Or rather, allow the energy to flow. Let the universe work for you. Let the universe work through you and for you, where you're deeply trusting. If there's a true necessity for you to put energy into something or not. And this is going to be a really big shift for some people, because I'm feeling too that we could have a struggle between a previous version of self and a new version of self. And I'm seeing this as standing between two boats where your left leg is on one boat and your right leg is on another boat. And you're like, okay, I've got to let go of this old one and put all my energy into this new boat. But maybe a part of you is grasping onto the old. This could be your ego, your mind, a part of your energy that's comfortable in the old ways of doing things or in a previous version of self. But the energy flow is meant to move you forward to trust more of who you're becoming. And so there will be a time when you have to release the connection to your previous self. But this month of April, you could have an internal tug of war. You could feel your ego popping up. You could feel your mind or your fear body coming alive with something. You could feel that there's parts of you that are actually connected to an old version of self that you've slowly been outgrowing. So one of the tasks of April is to check in and understand, is this truly who I am and who I'm becoming next in these new energies? Or is this related to a previous version of myself that I'm no longer truly embodying or living from? So consider any of these conversations, experiences, situations as divine gifts from your angels, bringing in some powerful opportunities for you to stand in the strength and confidence of who you are now. And the other thing I'm seeing right now is that this is the time to turn up your light, and don't you dare dim it. Don't you dare turn down anything that is your truth, your power, or your confidence, because April is a time to become more alive in who you are. And I'm feeling like there could be some past memory recalls here, especially because we have 4 planets and points in the late degrees of Pisces this month. Venus, Mercury, Saturn, and the North Node are hanging out in the late degrees of Pisces, which is supporting you in clearing out karmic energies, unresolved patterns, themes, or behaviors, anything that's no longer a fit for, again, the new parts of yourself that are being activated and coming alive. And so what it looks like, and I hope I can describe this, is that if you are standing in a very powerful place with your confidence, your light, your love turned up to 11, do not adjust if other people are uncomfortable. It is not your responsibility to adjust your energy or your frequency because others are uncomfortable with who you are, how you're growing, and who you're becoming. This could be something that you've done in previous lifetimes or other timelines that are very strong right now, and you're feeling they overlap between the timelines, where you're feeling that in a different version, a different reality of yourself, there's something you are adjusting or dimming down because of another. But this is a reminder to stand strong in who you are now and allow everything else to fall away. Allow the strength and power of your light, which I feel is coming from the heart. And part of what this energy feels like is that we are bringing more love onto the planet. We are expanding the spaces in our heart to hold more of those light frequencies that are very bright and blinding, that others can't see or receive. In fact, they have the opposite response. And what we're doing is holding this frequency without compromise, without dimming it, and allowing it to beautifully infuse the root chakra. Now, the root chakra, again, those lower Aries energies can stir up impulsiveness, selfishness, competition, war. We're bringing love into competition intentions. We're bringing more heart-based frequencies into warlike tendencies. So our ability to do this consciously and actively is part of how we're changing the grid on the planet. It's how the light grid is shifting. And make no mistake about it, Each of us is in a divinely placed location at this time to support the Earth's ascension, but to also support our collective ascension. And I'm seeing how beautifully we're connected through the light grid, and that when we each go higher and we anchor in these frequencies intentionally, when it matters most is when the biggest shifts occur. Again, I'm feeling this throughout April. So you could come up against something that feels quite karmic in nature, that feels like you're being asked to make a new choice or to make a new stand. And this is one of the important energy decisions we make when planets are in the final degrees of Pisces. So you're being asked to make a conscious, intentional choice around what you will declare with your energy that will not compromise, that will not falter, that will not dim itself or lessen itself. Instead, you call on greater strength, power, and confidence to be who you are at this time in your journey. And that could simply be something that you remind yourself. Maybe it's a mantra. Maybe it's something that you write down and you have it readily visible as you go about your day. But there is meant to be a spiritual strengthening that occurs from the heart, and it's meant to be actively embodied, especially as Neptune in Aries is calling you to a higher level of self-leadership. And even as I say Neptune and Aries, it then feels like the soul's essence and desire to elevate now. And I feel that the energy does play out over the next year into February 2026 at least. But this is a month to get comfortable with the uncomfortable, to not compromise, and to not think that you have to be adaptable or amiable or the good guy or the nice girl or whatever that may be. It's about kindness and respect with strength and personal confidence. This is part of the new archetypes that are coming online on the planet. This is part of the healed components in ourselves gaining more life force. And that would be another way to look at this month, is that we are embodying and gaining a new life force for the first time in our soul's journey. So allow the universe to work for you as it works through you. And keep in mind that not everyone is going to be welcoming or comfortable in these new frequencies. Some people are going to be having a really hard time and they're going to feel it and not know what to do. That's not your responsibility. That's not anything you need to concern yourself or your energy with, because this also highlights the sovereign journeys that we're all on. And that's part of closing out what is happening here in the final degrees of Pisces. Now, I realize I haven't gotten to the specifics of that yet, but I'm going to here. I usually start this show with an overview of the energies, and we get into more of the dates and specifics. So let's go ahead and do that right now. As April begins, we're going to have Saturn in Pisces make an exact sextile to Uranus in Taurus at 24 degrees. This is exact April 4th, but it's a really lovely aspect that continues throughout April, as Saturn and Uranus will only be about a degree apart by the end of the month. So throughout April, Saturn in Pisces, sextiling Uranus in Taurus, is allowing you to co-create with the universe based on your self-love frequency now, while you also understand what you are finalizing and have moved away from. The sextile is harmonious and supportive. It's like working with a good friend who gets you, who has you, who brings something more to the table. And with Saturn and Uranus connecting here, Saturn being the physical world, the 3D, and Uranus being cosmic intelligence, universal surprises and awakenings, you're going to have new solutions apparent around what to do next based on what is over and done. Saturn in Pisces is closing out a 30-year cycle for us and allowing you to move on and move forward with greater personal integrity, self-respect, self-forgiveness, and self-compassion. Now, it's also important to note that at this time in Saturn's journey, Saturn appears ringless to us here on Earth. This is a phenomenon that occurs about every 14 years. And I did do a separate podcast episode for you last July 2024. I talked about the astrology and astronomy of Saturn appearing ringless, which is where we on Earth are looking at Saturn edge on. And when we look at it edge on, we don't see the rings. Whereas when Saturn is tilted, we see the rings, right? So we have this phenomenon of Saturn in Pisces appearing ringless, appearing without boundaries or limitations, which is fascinating since that's how we know Saturn, as having those rings and boundaries. So Saturn is truly opening the floodgates and allowing the movements to occur to close out important endings for you wherever this Pisces energy is in your chart. 24 degrees of Pisces to 29 degrees of Pisces is important in April because Mercury, Venus, and the North Node are all moving across these degree points this month. Saturn appearing ringless in Pisces looks like opening up the dams and allowing things to just flow and gush through in order to purge it out. And then the sextile from Uranus in Taurus is very creative, electrifying, and awakening, bringing in some excitement around what to do next and how to maintain a truer connection to your self-love and self-worth, which is the Taurus energy at its core. So basically, this energy between Saturn in Pisces, sextiling Uranus and Taurus throughout April is going to show you new ways of co-creating with the universe, of moving forward into a new chapter, and giving yourself more peace around what was or what has been so that it doesn't hold you back from what you're ready to move into and fully own. Now, around these same degree points is where we have Mercury stationing direct on April 7th and Venus stationing direct on April 12th. Both planets stationed direct in Pisces, conjunct Saturn, sextiling Uranus, and conjunct the North Node. So again, there's a lot happening here in these final degrees of Pisces this month, showing you where to set yourself free, where to move forward, and also to be very responsible with your energy. Of course, responsibility is one of Saturn's keywords. Now, at a more practical level, Mercury and Venus in Pisces conjunct Saturn is going to bring up serious decisions, financial reconsiderations, what you need to look at and take care of that has been delayed or put off. If you have been procrastinating or avoiding something important, April's going to be the month where it comes up for you to get it done and handle it. The energy in Pisces can be very inconsistent. So this could be one of those instances where you have energy one day and you don't the next. So certainly make the most of when you do have energy to tackle things and get it done, as it could look very different 24 hours later. Mercury and Venus are needing to be very responsible with their commitments, emotions, communications, and decision making. In Pisces, you might just need more time to yourself. Let me really think this through. Let me consider every angle. Let me sit with this. Now, there is support from that North Node in Pisces, also in this same terrain in your chart, asking you to follow the energy. Don't get stuck in logic or rationalizing. Follow the energy that lifts you up, especially if there is more flow and ease when you direct your attention that way. Okay, so what does this look like? Well, it might mean that something you previously committed to, you're realizing you don't want to do it. You're not interested anymore. The energy is no longer there. So now you're changing your mind. You need to say no. And after you give that no, you feel a relief. You feel like, yes, I feel lighter. That was the right choice to make. It was what's best for my energy. Or conversely, you might realize you said no to something and now you're all in. You're ready for it. And that's what you want to focus on. And when you say yes, the energy lifts and you feel like this is definitely the way to go. So all of this Pisces energy can be hard to read, because we're looking for it to line up perhaps in a certain logical way or to be able to compartmentalize it. But with both Mercury and Venus stationing direct in the late degrees of Pisces, there can be more mental fatigue and exhaustion. Like, I'm tired of thinking about this. I'm tired of sitting with all this. I just don't want to deal with it. And I feel like that's going to be part of what is expressed in April. So don't be surprised if people back out, cancel plans, change their minds, or they're not available. It's not personal, it's collective. And I think it could also be eclipse season and the retrogrades finally taking their toll on people. And I think that's what we're going to see here, especially in the middle of April. And it certainly doesn't help that we have so many planets in water signs, because there is the heightened exhaustion that comes from dominant water elements. So speaking of that, Mars in Cancer is going to be finishing up his journey here through the first water sign of the zodiac. Mars has been in Cancer since January 6th, and this extended stay in Cancer has been intense, emotional, and uncomfortable for Mars. On April 18th, Mars will finally re-enter Leo, gaining strength, warmth, determination, and persistence now, after a very long retrograde experience. Yet Mars is not done in his transformation and ego death, which has been a big part of his story during the retrograde, since he is undergoing intense oppositional forces from Pluto in Aquarius. So Mars re-enters Leo April 18th and will make a trine to Neptune in Aries for the first time ever in our lives. This trine supports spiritual renewal, a new sense of self, up-leveling personal desires, leadership, and creative potentials. There is a really big awakening here for this Mars in Leo if he has been transforming and doing his work. If this Mars has really been evolving and growing, then there will be many benefits for him. Otherwise, that Neptune in Aries is going to wipe him out and overtake him with the higher frequencies that Neptune in Aries holds. So Mars in Leo is really in an interesting journey this month, because after that trine from Neptune in Aries, there will be the third and final opposition to Pluto in Aquarius at 3 degrees. This Pluto is in new territory now, and this is the third opposition that is part of a story that started in early November of last year. This Pluto has been challenging Mars to grow and evolve, to be a better version of himself. And so this pertains to each of us. Wherever we have these early degrees of Leo in our charts, Mars comes through and is connecting you to your creative force, your willpower, your sense of self and what you want. This Mars can be quite competitive as well as motivational. And this is a fixed fire sign that will stay the course to get what it wants. But with the opposition from Pluto, Pluto dominates, and Pluto destroys anything of a lower vibration that is based on too much self-interest. So this is where the ego death occurs. And it makes me think of Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, and how in the many stages of the hero's journey, even though it's typically broken down into 3 components, there are many sub-phases of the hero's journey. And one key part of the hero's journey is the ego death that the hero loses, is dismantled and destroyed by a bigger force that it can't fight, that it cannot overcome. And this is how the eventual rebirth occurs, where you understand what you're made of, who you really are at a bigger level of your being, and how you can adapt and grow with these cosmic powers. So this third and final opposition is an important checking in point on how we've been handling Pluto forces and allowing them to be a part of our evolution. Now, a childish Mars in Leo can demonstrate the lower vibrations of being too power hungry, headstrong, resistant to growth and change, and only focused on their own self-interest. This would be the classic my way or the highway. But the Plutonic forces here demolish that, wipe it out, tear it down, and won't allow it. Whereas a mature and an evolving Mars in Leo will understand that it's time to shift and change. Transformation is here, and it's time to move into a new higher version of self that embodies more conscious power that benefits the whole, that benefits the masses. Now, at a collective level, this story has been playing out since late October, early November 2024, and it will culminate in late April with this third and final opposition that is exact on April 25th. And I do feel that this Neptune in Aries plays a key role because Neptune in Aries supports the ego death as well, knowing that it leads to greater spiritual enlightenment, a new sense of self that comes alive through the rebirth of Neptune in Aries. The old way is still fighting Pluto. The new way understands that you are truly at one with Pluto in the higher realms. So as we approach the end of April, what part of your inner child has been evolving and transforming since last November? What areas of your sense of self are being recalibrated to connect with the whole and new future potentials? How is your solar plexus ready to expand beyond your own self-interests and see that you are a beautiful component in the collective mosaic, and that when you give to the whole gives back to you, that it can be a high vibrational synergy, a new dance of energy that unfolds here between the Leo and Aquarius axis in your chart. There is great creative force here, and you might feel that you're being directed into something that you can't even see yet, but you feel it and sense it. I'm getting the visual of very strong pulsing light, like electrifying lights here coming through that can even be uncomfortable because we don't know what to do with them or what it means yet. It could even be some kind of signaling from your future self that's directing your energy in a certain way that matters. Whatever you're sensing or whatever it feels like for you, just remember that this Pluto in Aquarius is the bigger energy, and it is meant to demolish and dismantle what is not in alignment for the collective good. Actually, as I say that, I'm remembering this video I just saw of a tower in, I believe it was Louisiana, collapsing. It was an explosive demolition where the tower imploded on itself and collapsed. And that's because it was uninhabitable after being destroyed by hurricanes. So that would be one visual representation of how Pluto in Aquarius takes down what is not for the best and highest good of all. In this case, a tower that could not be used and needed to be destroyed in order to be rebuilt. And when you keep a long-term perspective, it helps to understand how the tonic journey unfolds, since that destruction serves an important purpose in the rebirth and rebuilding that can come about. Now, I've only covered the main energies of April. There's actually too much to cover more specifically in this one episode. So that's why I go the latest transits in every Wednesday show. But when we are looking at what is unfolding here in April, we are being ushered into more of our heart-based living. We are connecting with more of our spiritual selves, living from this awareness and this consciousness, being more readily prepared to handle life experiences and life events with our spiritual guidance, trusting, again, do I put my energy into this or not? Do I want this? Do I not? And allowing our intuition to be active in our decision making and daily events. April is going to bring in more opportunities to stand in your light, confidence, power, and strength without holding back who you are, what you want, or thinking that you have to dim yourself or your needs. April is a time to spiritually strengthen who you are and to advance in your life based on the dreams that call to you now, as well as a deep self-love for who you are. We will also have all planets direct as of April 12th. April 12th to May 4th is going to be a time period of greater alignment and movement, which of course we will be discussing as we move through April. I'll be touching on the lunar energies as we move through April as well. We'll be discussing a very interesting Libra full moon at 23 degrees on April 12th, plus the Taurus new moon on April 27th that occurs at 7 degrees 47 minutes of Taurus. We're still riding the waves of eclipse season as well, because the energies will unfold into early 2026 with these eclipses we just had. So keep in mind that those energies are still in the mix. They're still quite strong and potent, but this is all divinely on time for the new earth experiences that we are actively holding and embodying. We've been talking about how big 2025 is, and that certainly is the case throughout the year, but we also came in with the soul's knowingness that we were ready for this. We can handle this. We're the ones we've been waiting for. We are the ones here who are here to change over into the higher expressions, to embody more of heart-based living, and to hold a bigger, brighter container of love for self and for others. And April is going to give us opportunities to practice that. And you can also feel how divine it is, how you're calling in certain experiences, events, and conversations that are divinely led, divinely protected, and offering you more ways to trust your heart, to trust what it means to love each other despite human differences, and to elevate ourselves with beautiful cosmic support. Even if it feels a little bumpy, challenging, or difficult at times, of course, you're never alone, so be sure to call on more support from your soul, your angels, your spiritual team, and any of your off-planetary connections that are here to lovingly guide you during this important transformation on the planet. We are so loved and cheered on for this growth, and it's quite beautiful to not only experience it, but to observe ourselves experiencing it, and to know that we have worked lifetimes to get to these transition points. So certainly celebrate that for yourself. Celebrate what you have earned across lifetimes, and notice this in your energy and in yourself. Really recognize it, because it is that big. We also have support through the universal spiritual laws, as we have access to all of them all the time, always. But the more that you readily activate and work with the universal spiritual laws, the more you will feel empowered and confident in what you're creating in your life now, as well as understanding what needs to shift and grow for your best and highest good. Most people come to the universal spiritual laws through the law of attraction, but there's also the law of action, the law of rhythm, the law of divine oneness, the law of transmutation, and so on. And when you're aware of all these awesome laws that are existing in the universe, you're going to be able to fine-tune where you go in your mental state, and also start to recognize the patterns that have shown up for you throughout your life. And that can be quite eye-opening, or maybe you didn't see where you were stuck in some kind of loop, or where you're ready now to approach a universal spiritual law in a new way and from a new angle. If you want to dive deeper in understanding the universal spiritual laws and how they connect to your astrology chart, then you want to check out your cosmic codes, 12 universal spiritual laws in your astrology chart, as I guide you through how to look at your chart with a deeper connection to 12 universal spiritual laws. It's really awesome. It's a really fun way to see your chart and your energy from a whole new vantage point. And I personally have loved hearing back from many of you around what you've realized about what's played out in your life and in your world based on these connections. So I'll put a link below the podcast if you want to read more about what is available to you through your cosmic codes. And I hope it just offers you a new way to not only understand your energy, but to play with your astrology chart, to create some new openings and manifestations based on your power. And that is what this time is all about, being more in your spiritual power as an energy creator. So as always, thank you so much for joining me for today's show. I'll be back every Monday and Wednesday for a new podcast episode. And please be sure to check out my YouTube channel, where I am posting more videos and updates for you regularly to stay on top of these big shifts and changes that we're moving through. As always, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate your connection, your presence, and your time. And I look forward to connecting with you again soon as we move through these big energies together. Take good care, and I'll see you back here soon.